So to further expand on the solutions and our relationship with nature as human beings, I would like to welcome Dr. Rattan Lal, who is joining us from Ohio. He holds a PhD and is a distinguished professor of soil science and director of the Rattan Lal Center for Carbon Management and Sequestration at Ohio State University. He has mentored over 120 graduate students and 60 postdoctoral researchers and received numerous awards for his research on sustainable agriculture, soil carbon sequestration, and climate resilience agriculture. In 2021, he was ranked number one agronomist and number one environmental scientist from Stanford University global ranking. Dr. Lal has also served as president for various national and international organizations and committees such as the International Soil Triage Research Organization and Soil Science Society of America, and many more. Please help me in welcoming Dr. Rattan Lal to speak about spirituality, morality in solving environmental issues.
Thank Professor World Peace Academy for giving me the opportunity to make a brief presentation titled Spirituality, Morality in Solving Environmental Issues. The global issue that we need to address, we have a global population of 8.11 billion and increasing at 1.14% per year. That means about 7.65 million per month, 92 million per year, extra new population. Per capita arable land area, which is 0.186 hectare, it's decreasing to less than 0.07 hectare for 30 countries by next year. And land degradation of the agricultural land estimated about 30%. Some reports are also estimating at 40% of the entire land area. Per capita renewable freshwater supply of less than 1,000 cubic meter for 30 countries and increasing to 58 countries and 4 billion people by 2050. Atmospheric CO2 concentration today 427 parts per million and increasing 0.5% or 2 parts per million per year. Energy use 638 quads. Quad is 10 to the 15 BTU or 672 exajoule in 2023 and increasing by 1.4%. Per capita grain consumption of 300 kilogram per year and decreasing, and food insecure population of 821 million. And unfortunately, because of war in Eastern Europe and Middle East, increasing dramatically. In fact, this number is underestimation. Per capita CO2 emission in the world, 4.9 metric ton of CO2 per year, and in the US about 18 metric ton of CO2 per year, and the world peace being jeopardized by food and nutritional insecurity. So those are the 10 issues, as was the case with UN Millennium Development Goals, which were not met. Unfortunately, Sustainable Development Goals are not on track either as of now. For example, CO2 concentration, which was 315 parts per million in 1960, and it presently is 427 and increasing rather dramatically. The Green Revolution, which saved hundreds of millions of people from starvation, does have some limitations. Soil degradation is one of them. Agricultural emissions are increasing by 1% per year, prevalence of undernutrition, as I mentioned, increasing dramatically, and malnutrition affecting more than 2 billion people, especially children below 5 and nursing mothers. Dependence on fossil fuel, 10 gigaton of carbon per year. Water pollution scarcity aggravating. Urbanization taking prime agricultural land. Food waste, 1 out of 3 billion tons of grains reaching no stomach, and soil centering focus primarily on three cereals: rice, wheat, and corn. Other crops not considered. Soil degradation really affects 52% of agricultural land. Cost of degradation approximately estimated at $400 billion per year, and salinization affecting 1.5 million hectare of cropland, irrigated cropland per year. Yet the global food demand is increasing because the population is increasing, and we have a very finite food system resources, serious problem of undernutrition, soil degradation linked to malnutrition, and diet diversity is rather limited. So the question is, how do you make agriculture a part of the solution? Control soil erosion by conservation agriculture, control eutrophication by soil cover so that the water passes through the soil organic carbon depletion by living deep root system crops, greenhouse gas emission by integrating crops with trees and livestock, conventional agriculture to be changed by regenerative farming, and trying to find out how to increase carbon in soil using conservation agriculture, complex farming system, integrated soil fertility management, pest management, high root biomass, long-term sustainability, and of course, carbon farming. Carbon farming means growing carbon in land, soil, and trees as a commodity that can increase income of the farmer, something that farmers can get income for when they grow carbon in soil. Soil has large component inorganic matter, might be 95%. 95% is more optimum. 5% is about organic carbon. And of course, 50% of the total soil is approximately 50% air and water. This is the way the soil should be. However, degradation changes the inorganic component much higher, organic component decreases, and the capacity to hold air and water in a compacted soil decreases, resulting in degradation of soil health. Therefore, soil health should be managed by protecting and restoring soil organic matter content, enhancing soil biodiversity, living in harmony with nature, observing the law of return. Law of return says, whatever you take from soil, must put it back, and treat soil like a bank account. Same thing as law of return. You cannot draw from bank more than what you put into it. And soil is exactly like that. And therefore, the way to manage soil is by nature positive agriculture. Pro-nature agriculture is inspired by eco-innovation. It's powered by non-carbon energy. It's driven by a circular economy and green infrastructure, and is supported by the recarbonization of the terrestrial biosphere as the bedrock of sustainable development. And nature positive agriculture is the same as nature friendly agriculture. We want to make agriculture emission negative. Many people talk about emission neutral. No. Agriculture is the only industry which can be and should be and must be negative emission farming by reducing carbon emission and by sequestering carbon in the terrestrial biosphere, including soil, trees, wetland, mine land, and of course the degraded lands. That brings us to the question of regenerative agriculture, which is very similar to what I said, nature positive agriculture. And it's the same thing as agroecology. That's the application of ecological principles to agricultural system and practices, are the branch of science concerned with new farming method, such as agroecology, increasing yield while also reducing the environmental impacts. Plant varieties can certainly play a role as long as they have deeper and bushy root system. And this is different than what Dr. Borlaug suggested, dwarf varieties with a high harvest index. I'm here asking for plant variety with deep root system and more biomass also, probably by sacrificing some grains. Favorable biomass chemistry, so it doesn't decompose very quickly. Molecular signal to be emitted by plants under stress, which signal can be detected and intervention made. High eco efficiency is important. And the plant should look like with a deep root system, which has above ground biomass also large. And these plants can sequester carbon in soil, root exudates. They also have soluble and polymeric compounds, rhizode deposits, root litter input, depth distribution of roots, absorptive and transportive roots, bioturbation by earthworm and termites, other organism, microbial community. So agriculture would look something like a plant that emits signals that we can detect and intervene. These plants are grown with no-till farming mulch and cover crop, and these crops are integrated with trees and livestock so that it's a very complex farming system. And if you need additional nutrients and water, they are given to plant roots directly by drip fertigation. So most of these are absorbed rather than leaked out into the environment. And finally, we want to talk briefly about the carbon sequestration in soil or carbon farming, which follows a sigmoid curve. And if you do this on a long period of time, on a generational scale, like 25, 50, 75, 100 years kind of thing, take a slope of that line that gives you rate of sequestration. It gives you a point of carbon saturation. It gives you saturation carbon capacity or carbon sink capacity. And we can also find out the duration of time required to fulfill that carbon sink capacity. And this carbon saturation is a function of soil properties such as mineralogy, clay content, depth of soil, moisture content, climate, land use, and of course, management of nutrient, biomass, root to shoot ratio, CN ratio, the biomass, coupled cycling of carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur, and stabilization versus mineralization. I mean more stabilization. That brings me to the question of how do you feed the population by 2050? In fact, the world produces enough food already to feed 10 billion people. The goal is to reduce waste, which now can be 30 to 50%. Increase access to food by addressing poverty, inequality, war, political instability. Improve distribution of food. Increase use of plant-based protein like pulses and legumes, and accept personal responsibility. What I mean by personal, each one of us is a culprit and a victim. And at the same time, we must increase agronomic productivity from existing land, restore degraded lands, enhance biological nitrogen fixation, and adopt eco-intensification. And what does that mean? No additional appropriation of land, no more clearing of land, and save water and land for nature. What is the timetable to save water and land for nature? This is a suggestion. For example, fertilizer we use at present 200 million tons. Over time, by increasing efficiency and promoting soil health, the fertilizer used by the end of this century should be no more than 25% of what we use now. Improve efficiency. Africa must increase, China and India must decrease. Irrigated area, we have right now 350 million hectare. By end of this century, it should be 500 million hectare. But by using drip fertigation, not flooding, not furrow, not sprinkler. Cropland area, we have now 1,500 million hectare. If we manage land properly, such as in Africa, Caribbean, Andean region, Central America, elsewhere, the cropland area should be decreased to no more than half. Conservation agriculture should be adopted on complete cropland area everywhere, and grazing land should be reduced from 3.7 billion hectare now to no more than 1.5 billion hectare by 2100 by better plant-based protein diet. Integration of trees with crops with trees and livestock is very important, but we don't need 3.7 billion hectare. Water use, we right now use 3,150 kilometer cube of water. By using drip fertigation, by using better water conservation method, by improving soil health and water retention, the amount of water used for irrigation should be reduced to less than 1/3 what we use now. And at the same time, the average cereal yield, which is globally 4 metric ton per hectare now, can be easily doubled by the end of this century. Therefore, we return land back to nature. Why? Because Mother Earth is in agony. Mother Earth in agony says, "Hear me, O God. My own children are poisoning my air and water, cratering me with explosive, tearing apart my skin, and setting me ablaze alive. How dare you ask me to forgive them? Honestly speaking, O God, I think you have gone crazy also." And that craziness is shown by the war everywhere. And this war is really affecting soil health. Number one factor affecting soil health at present, today, is war. Whether missiles are fired because of hatred or fear, both people and soil suffer. War degrades soil, pollutes and contaminates water and air, and it takes decadal centennial timescale to purify and restore soil. There are 3 stakeholders in any war: 2 nations or communities that fight with one another, and the soil and the land, which is a silent sufferer, a silent victim that nobody hears its cries. Nobody has any authority, no one has any right, no one has any power to destroy the precious, finite, and the fragile soil resource on which depend the well-being of present and future generations. Access to food as a weapon is a crime against humanity and nature, is neither acceptable from anyone nor under any circumstances. Global peace is a scientific issue, not just a political issue. Therefore, advancing science of soil health, nutrition sensitive agriculture, food processing and biofortification are critical and high priority scientific issues with strong impact on world peace and stability by building bridges across nations, not by tearing them apart. Thank you for the opportunity.